It's that time of year when teams get knocked out of Worlds contention. You got to put the generic tweet of, we did our best, we fell short of our goals. Thank you to everyone for supporting us. So it's a little tough time right now. So today we were able to get someone who's experienced that as both a content creator, as a player, and as a coach.
What the hell, man?
You asked me to be like, hey, you asked me. Hey, I started the show catching up with Yamato. Yamato is joining myself and Jamada today on Power Spike. I started the day being like, hey, man, I'm sleepy. I'm a little cranky. He's like, I've never seen that beyond your beautiful smile. And I was like, okay, you want to see? You got a little bit of it. I wasn't going after you. I was just saying that we've had failures.
I want the heat. Okay. I want the heat, man.
Yeah, I think Yamato is into this.
And
to me, man.
Yeah, so he's experienced it as a player, as a content creator, and as a coach, including threads being made up about him in Korea. Yet he still comes out of it on the other side with the positive, proactive growth mindset. And that's why he's here today on Power Spike. It's our friend Yamato Cannon joining us on Power Spike with Jamada for the first time. This is so cool. So excited to have you, brother. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. It's gonna be confusing, bro. Our names are too similar, Yamato. Like, bro. Like,
yeah, I mean,
my name with an accent.
LEC, yeah, like anytime we're on the LEC in like 24 and 23, like Europeans be like, is it Yamada or Yamato? Or like, how the hell are we supposed to like navigate this every single time without fail? Yeah, it's gonna be good though. I'm glad to have you on the show. First and foremost, it's been a very long time to be able to sit down and have some talk.
But I have to say though, the timing is kind of awkward because Dom's team just got clapped, you know. But I was asked to come on the show before the match was played, so this was already planned.
Yeah. Like I think we should probably clarify this for Dom's sake. Dom was saying that Saturday was going to be rough for him to attend, regardless of what the result was. We promise he did not pitch out just because C9 lost. Yamato is here to cover because Dom's availability was a little bit sketchy today.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's fair and fine. Dom then came in and said, hey, I can make it, but we already planned with this. Don't worry about it. He'll be back next week. But Yamato here stepping in to give his purview on the League of Legends landscape as we are at that, not quite at the beginning of the Mountain of Worlds, but we're at the, prove it kind of phase of the year, Yamato, where there are tests where you got to show the growth. Now, you can't just talk about the growth. You got to show the growth in these do or die matches, regardless of whether you're one of the higher seeded teams, one of the favorite teams, whatever your team has done in the past, doesn't matter, because if you get into an elimination match and you falter, your year is over. And that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with the little SackTap, but with a twist. It's a sack.
Don't twist my sack, man.
Don't twist my sack.
It's a Gilius angle, bro. You guys know the story about Gilius' testicular torsion, right?
No, get in there.
All right, well,
fill me in.
Gilius, at 2 occasions, for random reasons, apparently that's the thing, guys, that your balls can get twisted. Imagine they're attached to these strings, and they can get twisted, and you gotta get surgery. And it happened twice to Gilius.
Twice? Yeah, twice?
Twice. I kept telling you, it's like, Gilius, bro, like the Harlem Globetrotters are having a show in your ball sack or something, like, what's happening to your sack? So no twists, bro. That puts my mind in the dark place. I need to, double check, that everything's in place.
All right. Well, we'll... All right, let's get to SackTap. Fly the thing, Light. All right. Our proxy. Basically, Yamato could speak to it because he co-streamed Worlds from Dom's house before. So he was in proximity of the Cloud9-ness and the coachingness and the mindsetness. But no, let's get your thoughts and takes on what happened to Cloud9. The Cloud9 run ended short here in a best-of-5 series after a couple of winning positions by Cloud9 in Game 1 and in Game 5 that We're thrown away and punished by the Thieves, and the Thieves will continue to blow up another marquee organization's world's run in 2025 here, Yamato.
Absolutely crazy. I'm trying to think what Dom would say, so I'm putting it through the experience, as you mentioned, because I've been clapped before on the finish line. That has happened to me. Less so than more so because I made it to Worlds a couple of times, I've done my business, I just put that out there. But I know Dom as well. And I think the lining that he would go with, he would use this and he would say this in easier terms and lighter terms. But I think he would say, my players are weak. They have no resilience. I don't know what's happening. Our scrims are looking good. The practice is looking good. When we played against FlyQuest in the finals, what happened? We won all the lanes. That was our strength. We just couldn't convert the endings. We were the laning team in the region. And somehow, we out here losing lanes against this guy's Toast. We out here losing lanes against Shopify Rebellion. Fudge is solo killing Thanatos. Castle is solo killing Thanatos. The Thanatos that the version of Dom and also Yamato, we both have the opinion that Thanos is supposed to be the guy. I thought he's like an MVP candidate. But somehow, this summer, I don't know what's going on with these guys. Because it's like when when C9 win, they stomp. It's like when things are going good in lane, they have like these easy 28-minute games, very, very one-sided. But then when something just goes a little bit wrong, they just fold like just a house of cards. The moment something goes wrong, whether it's a gank or a dive or a play, then it's just over for C9 within the game. And that part is so strange. They managed to reset between the games because they managed to win a majestic game 5 against this guy's Toast. Woo! But within the game, when something goes wrong, there's just no recovery. And for me, when I look at a situation like this, you can't look at Loki, you can't look at Thanatos. These guys are new guys. You got to look at the leadership of the team. I got to look at Reapert. I got to look at Inero. I got to look at Sven. I got to look at Blabber. Blabber, you are no longer a rookie. But now you're the equivalent of the North American Razork in the region, where you play well when it's easy for you. That's when you win the championships, when C9 is unequivocally the best, when you have a perks on your team, we have somebody to set you up for success. But now you're in the stage of your career. You're supposed to have the Smithy flair. You're supposed to have the Jankos energy. Like, you're so deep into your career, but somehow we are still viewing you through the lens of a rookie because some of the mistakes you're doing are just unforgivable. 1 year in, 2 years in, I can accept it. Your baseline was really good and we can see the potential. But now at this point in time, the montage we can make of him getting caught in game 5s is just despicable. And the conversion between what we saw from the FlyQuest finals to what we saw now, just a complete loss of individual performance, which is the most disappointing part. I kind of wish that the Dom version of me was in the room. But I have obligation. I need to co-stream. I live in Texas. I can't be carrying the team at all times. I needed to be in the room to shake some sense into these guys. But I could just be there for 1 week. So that's the pain point, So coaching remotely fucking sucks.
Yeah, definitely. And people might say, they're pros. They should be able to do it themselves. There's people in the room that can already do that. Blabber's been there so many times. It's not just Blabber, right? It's the team. But that's the whole process of the sport. That's the whole process of competition, Jamada. You're not perfect all the time, and that's why you require the coaches. That's why you require the team. You need people to function in that role that's there. And then the efficacy of that coaching function, the efficacy of helping reset, of instilling the discipline is the important thing. Because we can sit here all we want to be like, here's the optimal play, here's where they made a mistake, that's it. But the process of getting to that point is the competition. What do you think, Jamada?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I like that you brought up the discipline point as well, because it's something that I've hammered home quite a lot when it comes to C9 throughout this year, especially kind of post sort of MSI, or kind of just around leading up to MSI and then after it, where it was very clear that C9's ceiling was exceptionally high and they could go toe-to-toe with FlyQuest and they could very easily swat away basically the rest of the league. But the same habits of everything that, honestly, Yamato hammered home quite well, were just seemingly not addressed. Like C9's issues were some of the most face-up issues I think I've seen a strong team have in a very, very long time. Where, yeah, Blabber is getting caught out. The icons at times, obviously, if you were watching Dom's co-stream yesterday, he was saying, yeah, I spent like all of this week prepping the icons and like making sure, look, we pull down the icon to this side of the lane, so we make sure that they have to come into all of these. And it's like, it just seems like on stage in these high intensity moments, everything just kind of goes out the window. Like, and it's not as consistent as it needs to be. And I think that's kind of the tragedy of this C9, is that it was very apparent that they could be very, very, very fucking good, but crashing out, not making it into top 3 in an LTA that looks like this, like I don't
North.
Sorry, an LTA North that looks like this, like with Shopify the way that, I'm sorry, but like, bro, Shopify stink of dog doo-doo, bro. Like, they do not look like a good team in my opinion. Have they individually improved? Yes, cool, good for them. But this, for the entire year, has been a race of C9 and FlyQuest. And I think to not even make it into semifinals is a massive, 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 massive failure of, I don't even know where to even rank it. Like, it is really bizarre, frankly.
The silver lining is last year was worse. They lost 3-1 and 100 Thieves had Tomo. And they were playing LeBlanc Nidalee. They were playing LeBlanc Nidalee in 2 games. So it got better a little bit. A little bit better. That's the silver lining. The way they not qualified to Worlds was a little bit better.
I think also, not that either season has gone swimmingly, but JoJo and Berserker both stepping away. I think JoJo took a lot of the brunt of the blame from Cloud9 afterwards, and then Berserker heading over to DNF on a very dysfunctional team. But they look back and they're like, wow, something wasn't working. Something wasn't working there. And for the first time in the history of the organization, Cloud9 will not be going to Worlds in back-to-back events. And I think, yeah, that's just so interesting. It's so interesting to me because when you think about the moves last year, right? Who was coaching at the time? Mithy was coaching at the time. They bring back Reaper this year. They rejigger the coaching room. They now pull in Loki. Like, this was a year full of promise that I think it's difficult. Jack's not someone to sit on his laurels to run it back again. Like, this is new territory for Cloud9 as an organization to decide what the best next move is. So now I need you to step back into your body here, Yamato, and let me know what you think is the next step. Where do you go? Like, are you keeping? Are you moving on from players? Are you running it back? Is 2 years with Reaper maybe not the play anymore? Like, I feel like there's a lot of things to try and solve here.
I think the main challenge of the LTA North, and also probably the biggest indicator of its imminent death, is what kind of maneuverability do you have? Like, if you're looking at the cores of C9, FlyQuest, and Team Liquid, like when you move on from the Whippo Inspired, when you move up from Blabber Sven, and you move on from like CodeJJ Impact, what is the next gen? What's the next generation? It's like, well, we're gonna get excited about fudge contracts. That's the core. We're gonna move up. No, that's supposed to be the 4th place core in the region. And I think if you're C9, I think you come together with FlyQuest and the other organizations, the ones that are staying. 100 Thieves is just a guess because they're piecing out, and this guy's toast has to requalify because it's a mess altogether. You go to the Riot head office and you plead for the thing that Reginald asked for a long time ago. I know Reginald has made a lot of mistakes, but I think something he was on the money on, but it was just, he was a little bit too ahead of his time because LTA still had, the LCS, had more potential back then. But now we're at the point where I think just make it an import region. Just open up the floodgates, make it a full import region, because green cards have carried this region for the longest time. And when the green card holders are not good enough anymore, and you no longer have the Bjergsen and the Jensens and so forth, what are you gonna do? The new talent pipeline is not really there. We're gonna recruit Darkwings. Is that gonna be the hype signee? Because I looking at C9, the main thing that is tricky about this team is I think Loki and Thanatos, you shouldn't move on from these guys. I think they're looking good. Individually, they're great. And then the question is, what kind of coaching side do we pair together with these guys? Are you going to look at maybe the coaching pool that is in Korea, that is also already very heavily contested in terms of where you can move or cannot move? Sven and Blaber are very, very difficult to replace. Sven played fantastic in the finals, for example, against Fly. I thought he was like a runner, like just in the running for being MVP of that series. Sven in the ADC position. And it's like just what kind of changes can you really make? I think that part is just so damn difficult because you need to harvest from Team Liquid and FlyQuest or hope that the restrictions for importing just kind of changes. Because at least from what I see, I'm not paying attention to NACL. I doubt that there's some magical player that I don't know about that is going to change up the whole league. I don't think we're at that point in time. So back to the initial point, C9 just need to beg, open up all import rules, make LTA North the league for money, let people throw money, let's get Chinese money in there, Saudi money in there, just have just sign the craziest rosters of all time and just make it into WWE but you just spend money in there and make it exciting through those means. I think that's going to be the future, or just merge with the LEC and fuck over LEC as well, but that's a different conversation.
I think that's a great point, because when you had talent, like when we think of like the most successful young talent that's come up through tier 3 and tier 2, it's Danny, right? And it was so clear how much better he was than everyone else. I think Johnson was also another guy, and Tomo was another guy, all 80 carries, but it was so clear how much better they were than the next guy. And when we think about jungle, was it Blabber? Do we go all the way back to Blabber being that young talent that was the next pipeline player from the jungle rule that's popped up? It was like, okay, it's not an import. This is someone from NA who's going to get a shot. He unseated, was it Wiggly and Svenskeren? I think it was.
It's a contract spot, right?
Been a while.
C9?
I think
well,
I was thinking. I think contracts was the same around the same
C9,
period.
He went to GG. Yeah. Contracts was the guy.
Yeah, because it was contracts Svenskeren. We at Golden Guardians picked up contracts. Svenskeren. Oh, and Wiggly. Wiggly was there. Wiggly was there because he was a guest on we did the draft show for the LCS, and he was there. And then they drafted a jungler. He was like, I don't know what's happening. And then he got traded to CLG. But yeah, it was
Really?
a while ago. Yeah.
That's cold.
Well, that's what I'm
got
saying.
Traded live on stream.
It wasn't. I mean, they drafted a player. He wasn't traded live, but a couple
That's
weeks,
basically
months
like
later.
that Coldplay concert, when the CEO cheated on his wife. It's basically that shit happened, but in league terms, this guy got boiled. Honestly, with a name like Wiggly, can you really succeed? There's no way, by the way.
He had some moments. He had some moments. But to your point, yeah, I think that's a good point in terms of the youth pipeline, because XU was the guy that kind of came up, as you said, Darkwings, who had moments and was willing to play weird stuff. The Anivia was awkward to kind of maneuver against, and I appreciate that. But this is a region that used to have Jensen Bjergsen, Jensen, Bjergsen, Power of Evil, Crown for one split. That was
Froggen. Don't forget Froggen. The GOAT.
Yeah. Froggen as well, who
I'm noticing
defied time. Yeah. It's tough. So I think that was a solid retort. Any final thoughts here, Jamada, on Cloud9's, I guess, future and any final words on this present form of it?
I have no idea what they're going to end up doing. I think it's very clear they need to hold on to Loki and Thanos for dear life. I think they just seem like, for me, if there's to be a new generation of C9 proper and full, I think they have to be a part of that future.
And the other certainty for me is that I think it's time for Blabber to go. I think he's had too much time now. You know, I think he's gone through the ringer for fuck knows how long he's even like 5, 6, however fucking long it's been now. And I think we've given him enough benefit of doubt.
Almost 7 years, I think.
Yeah,
7 years.
Right, 7 years. Like that is a long time to be on one team. And now I don't know who they could find to replace him. Frankly, I think Yamato's idea of going to Riot HQ and going, hey, like just open up the borders. I know, a very controversial statement in this day and time, but you know, open up the borders, let us import the players in that we can. Like it feels like a very, you know, explicitly American solution of just throw money at it, and just pray that it fixes the problem. Because I don't know how else you can rebuild this C9 roster. And I'm not sure, you know, do they want to get rid of Sven and Vulcan, right? I feel like Vulcan for a majority of this year had a very, very solid year. I think Sven had incredibly high highs, but as high as those highs were, the lows are also low, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on Jack, it really depends on GM, it really depends on everyone there and how they want to go forward, of course. But again, I think the two certainties, Thanatos and Loki, I think you have to hold on to. I think those guys very clearly can dominate the region. I know, but if you get rid of them, where do you go?
I have an angle, guys. I have an angle.
Okay.
May I dig on? They should get Spawn and keep the roster.
Ooh.
Just get Spawn. They need a belt in there, you know. They need somebody that feels the room. They need somebody to push them because the guy is good enough. They need somebody in the room that can just, like, if he has the capacity to be in the room, I know his family situation, but it's like they need somebody in the room that can read the room and actually push them in the right direction in practice and also like during those stage games. Because it just seems like they're mentally not there, you know? They're not mentally in the right place. It's like, oh, they slept bad and that's how they fall apart at EWC. Like that wouldn't fly with Spawn, you know? Like Spawn would not accept this, you know? They should get Spawn.
This is interesting. I am interested in this just because that was a super staff, right? It just felt like a super staff that was assembled already with Reaper, who's had so much success across different organizations as well. So it wasn't just a C9 thing, did over at 100 Thieves. You had Anera, who's I think he's had head coaching roles before, but he was also GM over at Golden Guardians. He's versatile and knew how to play his role as well. And so I don't know. It is a very, very interesting time and a new time for Cloud9, moving out of 2025 into 2026. And I think, unfortunately, the epitome of God, I barely speak Tagalog, the Filipino language, but a word that we use is called sayang. It's just like what a shame. Just a shame of the talent that was there, the support staff that was there, the results that were close, but not enough. And that'll be the story of 2025 Cloud9. So there you have it. Bit of the SackTap there. From us here on Cloud9's 2025. Before we move on and continue to swap some stories with Yamato and Jamada, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Raycon. Now, again, the Raycon Everyday Earbuds have been one of the best accessories that we've brought on for me that I use all the time. At gym, on the bus, over at work. It's fast charging, 90 minutes with charging it for 10 minutes, 32 hours of battery life. So you should be covered if you charge it all the way on up. They've got cool, great colors, active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity, so I can pair multiple different devices at once, and a super comfortable ergonomic feel. I use it over at the gym. They don't fall out. I'm telling you, it is awesome. I'm on my third pair because I lost my first pair in an Uber. I lost my second pair over at EWC. I'm on my third pair, and they're the only ones I go back to. You know, I had to go to the phone store and look at the phone the very popular phone headphones. Not for me, because I already have mine set up with the everyday earbuds. They've been great. We've told you about them a lot. Go get them. Go check them out now over at buyraycon.com/powerspike to get 20% off site wide. That's buyraycon.com/powerspike to get 20% off site wide right now on the everyday earbuds. They are fantastic. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon. That's buyraycon.com/powerspike. All right. Let's get into... Before we get into it, Yamato, you're talking about a funny situation that happened here. I obviously have learned the Korean culture way, the Korean Reddit, as it is, called FM Korea. And at first I thought it was more like a 4chan. It's like, oh, it's all degens. But no, it's more like Reddit. It is like a Reddit for people that are more internet-y, but not only internet-y. However, you got only internet-y'd, and you get only internet-y'd a lot by random League of Legends fans who post like shit posts of photoshops of you like ranking things in crazy fashion and then use a photo of yourself on it. Can you explain what's been happening to you on FM Korea?
I have experienced, vitriol. Like, sometimes you get comments. Like, I've experienced great vitriol over the last, I don't know how many years. And I always thought it was because, they're just irrational. It's just because they dislike Dom for irrational reasons. And that's why I'm getting flack, because I'm hanging out with Dom. But for the longest time, I just accepted as that, people are going to be people. I'm going to get interneted on the internet by people on the internet. And, this was basically like, you see these comments in either like Korean that you translate with the function that is just built into the YouTube app, or you just see comments that are clearly translated like, your mom go boom. And it's like, I know the geolocation of this person, and this is a common phrase, I've seen this before. And
I get it in solo queue, yeah.
And then suddenly someone comes into my stream and says, yo, Yamato, is this your tier list? And I open up, it's the most disgusting tier list ever. It's this type of tier list where we have, they put Vikla on like A tier, they put like Showmaker above Zeka, and they put Faker on C tier. It was like clear rage bait. And then it's posted on FM Korea with my picture on it, with like me, basically me cropped out, and it's just me, with this face just laughing, and then it's like I see it's like this shit has like 50K views. I'm like, yo, this is not me. This board is defamation, because like attributing me to this list, this crime of a list. And then apparently I start looking into, because like you mentioned yourself, it's like FM Korea, like all these threads start popping up, like everyone's very fast at making new threads. And as my response came out there right away, and then people started digging up like old posts of like basically all pro votes for like pros of the year, team of the year, where they've just put in my picture on like tier lists have nothing to do with me. Ice cream tier list. There was like attributing fake quotes. Like there was one quote where they said that I tried ice cream for the first time when I was in Sandbox, and that it was a life-changing experience to me. And basically they just used that quote to basically showcase like, look at this dumbass. He's so primitive. He has never had ice cream. Like to just, disqualify me from shit. And then apparently there's a group of people that hate certain players, and they basically think they are warriors of the light. We are with a message. No matter what the means, everything we do is true. So we shall do everything immoral to fight for the moral. That type of shit. And they are just posting so much shit to make it come across that I hate on Faker. And they thought that I am, known enough, but not known to the degree that it will cause, that it will be like noticed. And they just went under the radar. And that's why people have told my mom to go boom, which is fucked up. I don't like it. I don't like hearing that. And it turns out it's all fake news on FM Korea.
Yes. All right. I just needed people to know the vitriol that happens sometimes on FM Korea, but also they repost a lot of videos and images of me predicting bro winning and doing stuff. So it just
working out.
It was such a funny situation that even we were talking about over the LCK. Jamada, have you had interactions like that, crazy stuff like that happen to you?
Not from like Korea. No. Actually, weirdly, this week, I like 3 days ago, I had an interaction, and I don't want to name names because I think it's like bordering.
Name names.
No, I'm not naming names. But like, if anyone's been following like my personal content, you would have known I've been talking a lot about the Alawi champion lately. And a couple of days ago, I had a very high-ranked Alawi one trick come into my chat and start telling me how weak the champion is and all these other things. Like, hey, look, I've got this VOD. Watch the VOD and like give me some feedback. Talk to me on like, like I want to hear. He basically wanted like validation on his own thoughts from myself. So I watched the VOD, and he's also laning against another, typically quite high elo player who's well known in the community, and he's in a very easy matchup. They both shit the bed very aggressively, very, very aggressively, and I'm calling out all of these different things that he's doing wrong because, believe it or not, whilst I'm old and decrepit and play in Diamond in my spare time, I've coached challenger players before for years. Like I've had these interactions with how you look. I can do this, and he basically got very, very upset over time. Unfortunately, of all people, Don Jake then got involved. Rage baited the guy a little bit too hard. Yamato was making a face because he knows what Don Jake's like in those moods.
Yeah,
and lo and behold, he attempted to make a Reddit thread on me to try and basically paint me as if I had been really condescending to him, and that people who work with Riot and are forward-facing shouldn't do this. And then he linked the VOD timer of where this happened. And it's just like 30 minutes of me providing very clear and constructive and very productive feedback on his gameplay into him then getting rage baited for 5 minutes. And then him trying to justify me apparently being a bad person. Oh, and racist. That also got chucked in there. Because I said he has a Ooga Booga brain, which basically just means I'm calling him a caveman. Man, he thinks like a caveman. It's that simple. So that is actually the closest I've ever had to anything like that happen. And it was literally like 3 days ago. So I suppose good timing on the question. But on a large scale, no, never, thankfully. Not like Yamato. I've never had, Koreans telling my mum to go boom or that she's in Sky. I've been very blessed. I don't tend to piss off a lot of people wide sweepingly at all.
I've seen you rage bait Casey fans and Koi fans. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen you do that.
No, but that's different. That's like
that's different.
No, because for it's not, because for the video watchers and the people watching live, this thing right here, this beautiful passport, this is what it's all about.
Open it
for
up,
me.
bro. Let me see the picture.
Well,
don't do it, bro. I'm kidding. Don't show it on camera.
Bro, I almost actually did it as well.
What the hell?
It's about that international rivalry of British against the French and British against the, that's what drives me to do a little bit of the rage bait of those guys. But my interactions with them are largely very positive, actually. To be fair, like I actually have a lot of love for especially the KC guys, because I've been doing it for years since they first came into the scene in EMEA. Masters in like 2021. But I don't rage bait as a spare time unless you're a very rage baitable target, in which case you will be on the receiving end of some rage bait. That's just how it has to go.
Okay. Yeah, I brought some of these up because we just had all pro voting come out for LCK. At first they weren't going to release it until the end of the year during the LCK awards, which is like real snazzy. Everyone gets dressed up. They rent out this snazzy venue, and then they give out the awards. That's where the great bottom of the year post always comes out every year. And instead they're like, oh, just kidding. Regular season's over. Let's put it out. And they put it out. And I was expecting people to be mad. I was expecting, I don't know, angry post. My most controversial thing, in my opinion, was that for me, I voted third team jungler. I skipped by Peanut, and I had to go all the way down to Raptor for BNK Fear X, because if you go after Peanut In fourth place was KT Cuz, who had a good split, but early. But when he got put into Legend Group, he wasn't able to do anything except against Gideon. Gideon probably had the highest highs out of the non-top 3 teams during LCK Cup. When there were 2 grubs, we nicknamed them Gideon Grubs. Then there was now only 1 set of grubs, and he was no longer Gideon Grubs. He was Gideon Gives his jungle. And then after that, you go to Lucid. Lucid kind of had the sophomore slump. And then you get to Raptor. Like, maybe I could have made a pitch for Krakow, but he joined halfway through the season. Also, that looks mad biased. Also, he shrunk in big games, whereas Raptor was consistent and had big games. So I went there with that. Nothing. Everyone's pretty content with it. People were fine with our votes. Some people were voting Viper over Guma for second team, because I did the all Gen G team, because I'm like, look, I actually thought about it with the votes. I was like, do I want to do the all team thing? Like, maybe I could fit Carry in there over Duro, but no, this is a generational fucking team who is in the best region, won everything except 1 game in LCK Cup. Like, they are the best 5 across the board. Really close with Carrier and Duro. Ruler at some points wasn't as good as Guma, I think, in the middle of the season, and definitely Viper as at the beginning of the season. But Guma got benched, so we can't compare that competition to him. And then with Viper Guma, in those big matches when it was HLE against T1 and HLE against Gen G, Viper disappeared. So it made sense to me to vote Guma. And I was expecting, okay, here comes whatever. Nothing ever came. So no drama for me. That's why I wanted to go into Yamato's situation, and then Jamada also apparently having some stuff there. So there you have it. Some Korean drama, Korean League of Legends drama. The esports fans here for the LCK, very, very passionate, especially the ones on Twitter who generally aren't in Korea, but that's fun. This episode of Power Spike is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now, you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Now, Prize Picks is daily fantasy where it includes esports. You know, you have a favorite title in esports, it got you covered. This week, though, I'm going to make my picks in football. It's fall, so it's football season. Super excited to have it back. And I've got 2 teams that I support here, and that's where I'm going to go with a couple of my picks. So it's very easy to use. You pick a player and take a look at a couple of the stat projections across a couple of different stats. Select one that's more or less. So for me, my favorite team, Denver. Take a look at the quarterback role. Bo Nix. He's got a stat projection of 1.5 TDs. So more or less, that's a more for me. He's been solid. Young rookie quarterback going to his sophomore year. I expect him to do great things against Tennessee. And then, speaking of young, great quarterback in DC, the nation's capital, Jaden Daniels is there, but we're not going to him. There was a wide receiver contract conundrum that was happening with Terry McLaurin. That's where all the focus was. I'm not going to him either. Who's going to be the beneficiary when there's a great number 1? The number 2 that could also be a number 1, Deebo Samuel. He has a stat projection of 44.5 yards. Give me the more on that. Any DB2 is not going to be able to handle Deebo Samuel. So those are my picks here for Prize Picks. Super easy to do. You take a look at the stat projection and you pick more or you pick less. And if you get them right, you could cash in. It takes less than 60 seconds to turn your turn your picks into cash all season long with Prize Picks. And so you can do so here by downloading the app and using the code PowerSpike to get $50 off in your lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's PowerSpike to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Let's move on to our next topic here. which is still in North America, still involves 100 Thieves, but the second marquee team from North America who has failed. And we got a little bit of insight on it since the last time that we recorded. It was 100 Thieves blown by Team Liquid. Now, this is a Team Liquid core that has core and so many different parts here that have been the best team in North America in the past, but just didn't come together. So let's dive into it in this week's Everything is on Fire. It's Team Liquid. Jamada, let's start with you because they lost. We can go through the matches, but more interestingly to me was the thing that was released by Team Liquid where Spawn also kind of broke the fourth wall, acknowledging, shit, this is going to be on the internet everywhere. And in the process of doing all of that, I think APA was missing from this end of season meeting, and Spawn didn't hold back because of it or anything, but it was just a fascinating look into a scenario that if you are a Team Liquid fan and part of that organization.
So I missed the clip. Can you guys loop me in? What happened in the clip?
Oh, Dgon, do you want to get it for him? I'll kind of half summarize. But like, it was more or less, you know, and Yamato, you've probably been there at some point, somewhere along the crossing. Yeah. Where it's just like, look, we didn't make it to where we wanted to make it. We crashed out before we could get to Worlds or to MSI, whatever it is. Obviously, this case is Worlds. It's that kind of speech where it's like, everyone's in the room, they're depressed, but Spawn is Spawn, right? And he tends not to mince words pretty much ever. And there was a point towards the end of that speech where he goes, well, shit, this is going to end up on social media, isn't it? Like, he acknowledges that in some capacity, people will kind of perceive what he was saying as maybe a bit too aggro or blunt for like the situation. But, you know, it depends on the environment and the competitors that you've got around you. He said what he said. I don't think he did anything wrong. He was pretty much just kind of stating a lot of the obvious that we already know. So that was kind of the bulk of what TL kind of put out. There was also another one, I think, right before that, but I can't quite recall the full contents of it, Dgon. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, no, I just have just that one that I saw on Twitter. Also, just to clarify, someone in chat, Token Black said, APA was doing the losers interview, which is why he wasn't in the room, which that makes a lot more sense and clarification for me there. Because he's never shied away from that kind of thing. That's why I was like, oh, that was interesting. This was trending on the league subreddit. But just when we take a look at this Team Liquid roster, Dom has summarized it as the meta has shifted away from the lane swap meta and playing fast macro tempo within the 14 minutes there, getting a gold lead to then be able to get a slight advantage in the next team fight or in the next play. It moved away from that, and then they struggled. Do you guys see it that simply here for them? Let's start with you, Jamada.
I'd say so. Yeah, and I think we've kind of tracked it throughout a lot of the year. TL last year were a very systematic team. Coming into this year, they still, obviously, a lot of the systems that were present last year, but basically Fearless, was still in the game for the first couple of patches. And pretty much since then, I almost want to feel a little bit bad for TL, because I think almost every system change to the game has like fundamentally harmed their identity as a team, but then also it's on them to adapt to the game as it changes, right? Like there is like a balancing act that you have to be able to kind of apply to TL here, where it's like, hey, you know, when Umpty was on the lineup, it's like you want Umpty on the same 2 or 3 tanks always, AP on his comfort picks, etc., whatever it is, right? However you want that setup to be, always along those kind of lines. Fearless breaks that pattern because you have to have so many champions, you know, basically prepped and ready to play. You don't necessarily always get the same archetype of draft to play out, especially if you're going into best of fives or it's game 4, game 5. We've seen throughout the year how many wonky drafts you end up getting because of Fearless. And I think all of these kinds of different aspects where they were one of, I don't want to say one of the first teams, but they were definitely one of the best teams to quickly adapt last year when lane swaps came in. and they remained one of the best lane swap teams from last year moving into this year. Once that was gone, and then you have this different form of lane swap where it's not from the beginning of the game, it's not about map reads or jungle splits or whatever it is. It just felt like they never really found their stride. And then on top of that, then it's been player performance after player performance, where it's like Umpty was slumping really aggressively, and then he was getting okay again, but then he kept on slumping back down. Then you introduce Yuji, and it's like, okay, Yuji's here. Yuji at the very least is providing a bit more stability overall to the team, right? Less volatility that Umpty would bring to some of these like mid-game plays in particular. But then APA is underperforming, Impact is underperforming. And it felt like throughout a lot of the year, the only person that was really playing at the level that we kind of expect them to was Yeon. And other than that, even Core had his moments where he wasn't necessarily the best. So I think it was this unfortunate perfect storm, not so perfect for TL, of all of these rolling changes to the game and to the competitive ecosystem that didn't really help them. But again, a part of competition is adapting, right? So it really depends on how much you want to weigh up, their inability to adapt and change in terms of gameplay, how quickly they did or didn't make it there in certain aspects, but then also, again, these system changes that fundamentally kind of go against a majority of the philosophy that they'd built up throughout a lot of the back end of the last year and then the start of this year.
Yeah, Yamato, get in there.
I agree fully with the fearless point, and there's definitely like teams out there that got completely shafted by the introduction of it on a global scale. Like, just as a reminder, where Riot decided to implement this on basically to the global calendar after everybody made their rosters. It was basically after first stand. This was announced because people enjoyed it, which from a competitive standpoint, I understand from entertainment standpoint, like it would have sucked to just watch the same shit over and over again. But from a competitive standpoint, it does kind of suck. Because now, like, some teams, like a player like Peanut is screwed over. Labrov might have looked way better in a world where there's no fearless because he can just pick Rel every game or some shit, Like, there's definitely players out there that are not built for this shit. And I think Team Liquid is definitely, like, the epitome of that. I think a big thing is, like, in comparison to Team Liquid's approach, in comparison to a FlyQuest, if we look at last year, FlyQuest got second place. They just benched Jensen, got in quad, took Mithy to shore up the issue with Busio. And sure, everyone likes to talk about how FlyQuest is a team that stuck together the longest, but the thing is, everyone just made changes. That's the only reason. It's not impressive at all that you've been together for almost a year. Like that's not a statistic to be hyped about. But the main thing I want to highlight is the fact that they aggressively made changes and they didn't like look at their losses or their problems and think cynically that, oh, we can fix them, we can solve them. Because the idea of having Umti on this team, personally for me, it never made sense. I think in regards to sticking to APA, I do think that during the ADC meta with the Tristana and the Koki, he did show very high highs and he showed growth. So sticking with APA at the end of last year made sense. But to me, every time they reached their ceiling and at the end of competition, I did think that Umti always held them back. And here you have a roster with Impact, Code JJ. You have basically all the intangibles possible. You can access any region. You can bring in a Korean import that doesn't speak a fucking word of English, and you can integrate that into your team, no problem. You got Rainover, Impact Code. You have basically the pick of the litter, So it's like when I hear the players, for example, there was APA who spoke about Umti, said, oh, what he provides into the team is not something you see from the outside. I'm like, bro, I'm just watching the gameplay and it's looking like ass and it's not working out. Like, obviously, I feel sympathy for his situation and I hope he's all right. But we're looking at it from a strict business sense, and that's pure competition. And it just was never good enough in my mind. And when you had that year, you needed to aggressively make a change coming into this year because the same issues plagued them. I agree fully. Everything changed, which in the negative direction to what their identity was. But at the same time, I don't think they were aggressive enough because FlyQuest were, and also C9 were. Like C9 didn't make it in the end, but they did make changes with the ambition of being the best in the league. And I think FlyQuest did the same. And Team Liquid allowed themselves to stagnate because I think they believed that they could make APA and, of course, Umti play better. But Umti is not a rookie, you know. Like Umti he's been playing for a shit long amount of time. And I remember like when people were hyping up playing Lee Sin like 10 years ago or some shit, you know. Like he's not gonna find some crazy new peaks on an individual level when jungle is such an important role. And in a world where you have so, like especially now where jungle has become so role-based, I do think that for junglers it's the most punishing that you are playing, of course, the meta with Fearless in it, because what you need to change in between games in terms of how you play is so vastly different. And in winter, the tank junglers got away with it because that was the meta still. It was still leaning heavily into Sejuani, Poppy, Maokai, and then you have like a game 5 Peanut picking a Mumu, and it still kind of works. But then it was like, bro, the mechanical champions came through, and then all of a sudden, all of those tank jungle guys, they kind of fell off a cliff, and I think this was a big part of the issue. So for me, it's just Team Liquid not recognizing the pieces that they have and not aggressively making the changes in the right time span. Because I look at it the same way, as I mentioned with C9. Team Liquid, when they move on from Impact and Core JJ, I don't know what the hell is coming after. I really have no idea. Because they have green card superpowers. They could have brought in rookies, they could have brought in Korean talent, they could have spent a little bit more just because you have these guys in. But the moment Core JJ comes to Steve and says, brother, I want to retire, bro. I've been carrying this org for such a long time. My back is breaking. I want to enjoy the money I made. I want to be with my wife, That day is going to come. And when it comes, bro, I don't know where Team Liquid goes from there. That's like such a big challenge that the LTA teams are facing. When the current cores want to move on or get a bigger offer or something happens or they want to do something else, I don't know what happens with the region. That's why these years are so crucial. Because if Team Liquid was impactful this year, maybe they can snowball that into something coming into the next year. But now, like maybe the players that you would want to move into your team, you got competition, and at the same time, maybe Team Liquid doesn't look like the most attractive project as well, based on the results of this year.
I feel like this everything is on fires, not only for Team Liquid, but the NA region. This is actually a topic that we haven't hit a ton, Yamato. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jamada. It feels like we're at the precipice of the region needing to go through a period of being worse for a bit to get those players experience. And I'm not even sure if some player asked me like, hey, what is my best path to pro? We've already seen the Gorilla Jones meme, Lamau. But also, is it come boot camp in Korea, solo queue here? Is it trial on a Korean team? Is it play in a non NA region, hopefully EU Masters qualifying region? I don't know what the answer is to eventually come home, because even someone like young Griffin he's done it through the T1 Academy system and then ends up over at Loud. Not even an opportunity here in NA, and he's still very young, but that's another angle. Like, I just don't know what this next chapter holds when Yamato, like Yamato has said, when this core of current players move on, because UG is the guy. He is the guy. And we were talking about other young diamonds. I totally forgot about Masu. Sorry, Masu and Jan. Like Masu and Jan like studs. But what happens when that next crop move on, Jamada?
Well, I feel like Europe was kind of half going through it a little bit over the last year, outside of like G2 Fnatic, where you had a bunch of these rookies come in, especially like the time where it was at the front of the conversation was last year summer and kind of the back end of spring, when the rumors started about a lot of these younger players coming in. I'll be honest, it just feels like a lot of the repercussions of whenever it was from a few years ago of non-mandated academies as well, right, from the LTA North teams, to me, and just a general, like, has the tier 2 system ever been, or when was the last time the tier 2 system in NA was solid and actually fed players into North America consistently? Because I feel like you can say it has for Europe, basically, since before even franchising, right?
Yeah.
For NA, to me, now maybe I'm just saying something very ignorant, but I don't feel like it's done it for a very long time. And I feel like the answer from NA orgs has always kind of been to import, and then, you know, they take the very, very cream of the crop from, you know, the academy system teams. And that's kind of it. And that's all they've really ever, you know, known, and that's what they've done. And I think now we're at, you know, this kind of crossroads of, hey, the LTA North, honestly, kind of almost the entirety of LTA as a product, is in this weird spot, right? Where you have to think about the numbers and logistics there. From a player perspective, like you're saying, it's like, well, honestly, the best shot I feel like for a lot of these North American players is probably to go to an ERL team. If they can find a spot on like a good LFL or LVP team, or even maybe like the dark region, the German region, any of these opportunities where it's like, yeah, if you can find yourself in like a top 3, top 4 roster, you know, a team that's going to go to EU Masters, and then you're going to have more like eyes on you there, you should probably do that. Because I think the likelihood that yields a bigger ROI than sitting in NACL and all of these systems below, you know, the LTA is going to give you benefit, I think is just significantly lower. From a logistics point.
Yeah, I just wonder what the shenanigans are in terms of running an organization there, because I remember talking to a GM before about the cost of running a team and integrating them with the organization, the system, and you're looking at like $500,000 a year to run the team, right? Because it's just expensive in Los Angeles to run an academy team, to have them physically be there if you wanted them to be in your gaming house, or, you know, like just in proximity to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're just running an online team and sign these players to contracts where you're not getting the hands-on experience to help them grow, as we've discussed that Dom has felt those pain points on with Cloud9 earlier. So,
but you know what?
I'm just fascinated in
I would even say though,
economics
I agree with the economics, and it'll be definitely something that'll be interesting to somehow get insight from a GM or an owner that's willing to kind of share that information. But I would say even being online and then having access to being able to talk with the LTA players, be on their scrims, even if you're not there physically, that is still better than not having that. Right? Like, is it the best possible experience of being in LA and being in a gaming house? No, of course not. But financially, if you just keep everyone at home, you're saving still hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're still at the very least part invest. Like, even if you want to say you're not fully investing in their development and talent because you're not having them be present in LA, you're still part investing, right? And that's better than fucking nothing. And I think right now we're seeing a fair bit of the ramifications of very limited investment from a lot of these teams in lower league, you know, play below them inside of North America.
Just final point, and then I'll come back to you, Yamato. It's better if you realize the value of that product, which is the player.
Yeah.
If either they get slotted in on your roster or you're able to sell them on, which is why my answer to your example of like who was it? What was the last time? It was Cloud9. Cloud9 had players over at EG, they had players over in Team Liquid, like they had players everywhere on every roster because they sold it. They sold us contracts, right? They, it's years ago. We were looking at picking up Smoothie in 2017. I mean, they were making money off of their players. And you maybe like 100 Thieves had 100 Thieves Academy. They had 100 Thieves Next. EG had their Academy system, which allowed Danny to make it on through. But then you had players like Five Fire, who was a solid mid laner, talented, probably needed some guidance in terms of, being a professional and whatnot, and dealing with adversity. And he's found his way into content creation and moved on. But when those opportunities didn't come, then the ownership would say like, oh, well, the value isn't there, and they weren't able to sell them on. And it was just, there wasn't a marketplace for it. So it is, yes, investing in the scene is good, but if you have limited dollars to run your organization and you're running this thing and you're not getting the end product of running this thing other than running this thing, you can't look at it that way. It's tough. Yamato, any thoughts on that? Final thoughts on that?
I think, just because earlier I said that they should just make it into a buyers league with no restrictions. Obviously, that makes me come across as a capitalist swine that just cares about the bottom line. But I've reached that conclusion through the many mistakes that have happened with the LCS over time. Because the main challenge for the LCS was always that resource-wise they weren't competitive. When I say resources, I'm talking like player base, which is usually like the biggest one, player base and interest in the game. I think that challenge in itself is something that you can conquer, like FlyQuest has done. Like FlyQuest being probably like the best Western team, that's an incredible feat because they are basically like, I don't know, the equivalent of playing a game of Risk and starting in Madagascar. Like this is very, very difficult to be strong at that level and managing to build a very, very coherent roster, picking up pieces where like Inspired, was left at the airport, with Vitality, Whipper wasn't signed, reviving Busio's career, putting him together with Mithy and finding Masu, and then Quad was a talent that they picked up that they had in the academy team. Like they made money moves along the way that played out brilliantly. And I look at the LCS and the history of it. Like there was that point in time where, Doublelift got murdered by a Victor, and then suddenly the conversation became, it's like, whoa, we're not doing well internationally. It's like, no, please hold on to what makes your region great. All of the major streamers, all the big personalities, it's like the twisted thing was that you tried to go professional because you wanted to win a trophy that wouldn't change anything for you. So you lost the spirit of what the region was. Because back in season 1, 2, 3, you had 4 teams that were basically Los Ratones. You had Dignitas, you had COG, you had Team Curse, you had, of course, TSM. These, you could watch their scrims back then. They were streaming their scrims. You could watch everything. Everything was very busy, and the rise of streaming was just. The equilibrium was just hitting perfectly with League of Legends also being streamed, right? And then moving away from that, and then moving away from the name, and then moving to weekdays, and being so inconsistent in the decision-making, being so incoherent. It's like, as a fan, there was no reason to ever invest time into the LCS because the people that were running the project and the teams involved didn't believe either. Nobody is going to start watching a show where someone tells you, bro, the show is really good, but season 3, it becomes shit. And then season 4, it's cancelled. But season 1 and 2 is really great. But no, people want to feel like if I invest time into this project or into any medium really, that my time is valued. That me knowing all these details about, why this certain character is this way, this player, this history, that I have a sense of community and a sense of continuity. It ties into why costumes are popular too, because why the teams change and why the players change and the games change, I can tune in and I see Kado's face at the corner and I feel at home. But LCS is no longer a home. And I feel like at this point, all the decisions that are being made, I feel like they are slowly pushing it in the direction of killing it. Because some of these teams that are in the league, they don't want to be there and they make it clear. 100 Thieves is now a top 3 team in the LTA. They might go Worlds. Next year, they're not going to be there. How can I be rooting for 100 Thieves? It's like, hey, 100 Thieves. It's like, okay, next year they're not there anymore. That fucking sucks. Sure, it's a unique niche of a story, but the lack of continuity is what's so painful. And that's why I have reached this point where you've killed every aspect of what makes you good, even go so far to change the name to LTA and lose it. Bro, there was a battle. I remind you guys, there was a battle. There was EULCS and ALCS. And everyone was pissed that the LEC needed to move to the name LEC because our big brother just spat on us. We are going to take the name. And they took the name. The LCS, it was an insane name. There was basically the Gucci, and then suddenly it's like, you're named Gucci now. You won the lawsuit and now you're renaming to, Pedro's Peoples or something. I don't know why I said that, but because that's successful. But something, I just want a goofy name, a goofy name. Sorry, Pedro Peoples, don't kill me, please. No FM Korea, please.
Yes, make the Photoshop, post it on FM Korea. I'll see it.
So it's like, and that's why I reached the point now, because now Flacco is trying hard, Cena is trying hard, Team Liquid is trying hard, but for what? Something's got to give. Something's got to give, because these other teams, they don't want to be there. It's very clear they don't want to be there. And I think at some point, the top end teams also going to be like, yo, can I join the LEC? Like, I don't want to be here anymore either. Please, let me go. Free me. So it's like when I try to project what's happening with the LTA in the future, because there's no new players are coming through. It's like the only way to maintain, because you want to keep the strong orgs. That's what you want to keep. There's going to be some kind of integration, or you just make it into the money league. Make LTA into the money league, and that's it.
Yeah, and I appreciate disguised Toast specifically being so open with what it takes to run the org, how much money they make, what's going in, what's going out. And he's detailed his own difficulties running it while also streaming and keeping his own brand up, right? And as much as people might be mad at Nade, he did that for a while as well. He watched the team. I mean, Courage was out there casting. Like, they used their personalities to run the thing for a while. But it didn't, I don't know, didn't work. It didn't quite work out. So we'll see what happens here with the new crop of future for North American League of Legends. Things not on fire for 100 Thieves. They're just setting things on fire. I guess playing with house money feels pretty good. And I will say Golden Glue being giddy at some of those robberies that they're able to make, the coaches' cams, it is great to see a long-standing North American player and servant to the region finding that level of success now into a different role, as he's, we saw him as a kid, now maturing into an adult and a leader of men and finding success there. So we'll see what 100 Thieves does in the future. But congrats to them. And did a little disappointment there for Team Liquid and their fans, as well as Cloud9 and their fans. All right, that was a lot of doomer. That was a lot of cranky anger, cranky energy, Yamato. Like now you were right. You're like, I need to see what Dgon's like when he's cranky, when he's frustrated.
This is you cranky?
I feel like I got it out.
Yamato wants another level.
Now I feel good. Now it's time to turn our sights over to the East, because we are in versions of playoffs. I guess LPL had their qualifying matches for the playoffs. In LCK, we have play-ins into playoffs in terms of format. So it'll be a double limb bracket for the LPL, 8 teams. For LCK, it is a 6-team seeded bracket. So first and second place, which is not T1, Hanwha and Genji are seeded. They will play the winners of I think it's T1, KT, who won? BNK Fearax, and then the winner of D+ and Nongshim. So my question to you guys is, HiKeyLoKeyNoKey, where do you see upsets potentially happening between the Eastern playoffs? Who is Noki, Loki, and HiKey? Potential upsets. Let's get into it this week's HiKeyLoKeyNoKey. All right. Let's start with you, Yamato. You can start with a Noki. Maybe a team that maybe people are a little high on might make some noise, and you're like, nah, no noise here.
We're talking LCK and LPO? Was that?
Yeah.
Yes, between LCK and LPL. You don't have to pick both. You can pick a team.
Okay. So I maybe Noki is what? It's like, what is Noki?
Noki is they're not upsetting anyone. They're going to finish where they're at or worse, honestly. Like, and what we're saying is, based on their seed, they will finish higher than their seed, or will they finish lower than their seed?
I think my guys, like Noki, is going to be KT. And my angle here is that I think that people are way too low on what How Alive is. You know, it's like How Alive, you know, because that's the angle. It's like KT, I think they're clear fourth in the LCK. But people are talking about KT as if, you know, they're about to smoke T1 and they're, you know, it's like this year people discovered BDD. That's what the common consensus is. I've been on the BDD. Like, I've been suffering with BDD for the last couple of years because it's like, that's how I just pick my favorite players, you know, BDD and Rookie. Those are my two favorite guys, you know, just great mid lanes surrounded by fools. So I've been watching BDD solo kill Faker and still lose the series for the last couple of years, you know. I've seen him be robbed from MVPs and so forth, but now the community is going a little bit too far. It's like, oh, KT is gonna smoke How Alive. They have no chance because I think that's the big one. I think for me, How Alive is a clear favorite there. Like I think How Alive is gonna beat them in the BO5 if that matchup happens. I don't imagine like obviously that matchup might not happen. I think they might face off against each other in the lower bracket because I do believe Genji would pick them over T1 unless Genji are just psychos because they move mad like that. But KT is going to be my no-key. I think fourth spot, played the qualifier for Worlds, fourth place. I think they landed, you know, in a very, very neat spot.
All right, I like that. No extra upset potential, even though that's something people have been talking about. Jamada, how about for you?
See, I've been sat here trying to think because KT would have been my first choice for no-key as well. And Yamato did hit on a lot of my points, but I think I'll go over to the LPL and I will, and maybe this is, it's funny because it's actually the matchup that has the most potential for an upset, but I'm gonna no-key AL in the sense of, I think they are probably, as they are, pending some weird development, cap that third for the time being. And I think with some, you know, extra time between the end of LPL and Worlds, maybe they can return back to some of their peaks of, you know, MSI and just throughout the year and how strong they've looked. But right now, I don't see them making finals of LPL in their current iteration. And I think the Weibo series is a very, very weird one where it's like, I don't want to believe that Weibo will beat them. But I also worked on the LPL in 2023. Which was potentially the most cursed timeline you could be, you know, the shy hater in and a BLG lover in, right? So even though we're very far removed from that, a lot of those, you know, components are still present with like Xiaohu and what do you call it, and Light. So I'm gonna hold my breath and I'll say no-key on AL. I think that they're not gonna return and come back to be this big team. Because I think people would have probably left the LPL and then come back and they're going to start watching from playoffs and be like, why is this team fourth seed? Why is Top Esports, you know, first seed again? Where is BLG? What is BLG? You know what I mean? So I'm no-keying kind of on behalf of those guys. I don't see them making finals. I think they've looked way too shaky. I think they've been overcooking their drafts a bit too heavily again. There is a line. And I think that whilst I have a lot of love and respect for Tabe, especially because he comes and interacts with the Western, you know, media, which is not something a lot of Chinese, you know, forward-facing figures do. He has been a habitual line stepper when it comes to drafting. And I think he's towed over the line a couple too many times this summer. And overall, the team has just looked a lot worse than, you know, their cohesive ceiling. So I'll no-key them in playoffs. They'll be third place, like lower bracket semis. They'll crash out to, you know, whoever is going to probably end up being down there or likely be, I think at that point, BLG or Top Esports IG, I think is more likely. And yeah, that's where they'll crash.
Yeah, I'm checking their bracket. Is their side of the bracket plays against each other? I can't fully tell, but if this serves me correct, if they lost, they would play the loser of Top Esports NIP, I guess. So
I think they flip it. I think they flip it, but yeah.
Oh, they flip it.
Okay. Yeah. Just to avoid repeat matchups.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let's move to our low key then. Who's a dark horse? Who is someone that you think might be able to get an upset. Not the highest percentage chance. We'll save that for HiKey, but has a puncher's chance to finish above where they're at. So you can treat the LPL bracket 7-8, 6-5, 7-8, 6-5, and then it goes 4-3-2-1, right? I'm pretty sure it goes 4-3-2-1. But so someone that'll finish higher than where they're currently seated. Jamada, you go first.
Ooh, well, I think sticking with the LPL, as much as I hate to even feel this way, I think you can never really rule out BLG from maybe doing the thing. Like this lineup is made of just from 23 to 24 to now. Yes, this year has been fucking horrendous by their standards that they set themselves. Like what they have done is the reason why we hold them to the standard that we do and we are right now this year, even though they are significant. They are a shadow of their former self. That said, I think the big matchups, they still show up for the most part. T1, nameplates off. That's like their biggest kryptonite. But even when you look at the bracket, it's like they've had very consistently close series against IG throughout the year. They can still beat them, right? Like it does still take like good day Shy, good day Rookie to like outlane Bin and Knight on their own like kind of respective middling days, in my opinion. So I think their bracket into top 3 is actually very, very playable because I have no faith in JDG. If JDG even look remotely competitive into BLG, I think that is a bigger indictment on BLG's inability to have grown throughout, since MSI to now, than it says about JDG. JDG look fucking homeless, and I'm praying that they just lose and we just don't see them for the rest of the year. Which is sad because
is it because they should be better than what they are?
Yes, it's because they should be significantly better than they are. Like this lineup, even like because I think we've spoken about a lot of teams on Power Spec specifically of like how Fearless has impacted their ability to be the team that they want to be. But I feel like JDG is one of the rare rosters where at the start of the year, I'll look at this lineup and go, yeah, these guys don't really give two fucks about Fearless, actually. Like, all of these players can play relatively flexible, picks and play styles. I think the only real exception maybe was like, it depends on how you, is how you rated Missing. But otherwise, Pace can play a little bit of everything. Scout, yes, over the last couple of years, you'd probably prefer him on enablers as opposed to like outright and like playmakers as opposed to like outright, traditional carries in mid. But Shun, great carry jungler, great tank player. And then obviously they started the year with Ala, who has historically been able to do everything as well. This lineup has had actually no reason on paper to fail. But at every single hurdle that has come their way, they have. And I'm kind of sick and tired of them. I mean, this is turning into a JDG run more than it is BLG Loki, but I was one of the few guys that was like, yeah, JDG are probably our third best team, like on paper at the start of the year. Like that should be how good this lineup is. And they're also a bit of a coming together of like exiles almost of like, Shun got kicked off of BLG, but like Shun, how much of a problem was Shun to BLG really, as it was like Shun couldn't fit the role that he needed to fit on BLG, right?
Yeah.
Scout, very malleable. Ala, same kind of deal with as Shun. So like all of these players should have just come together, and in my mind, they should have come together like fucking, like just, I don't even have to really say it. So to me, BLG have a relatively easy path in. They should be able to just completely demolish. They should be able to completely demolish JDG. I think their IG series will be tough, but if they beat IG, they're guaranteed top 3, which puts them in a pretty good standing to just make it to Worlds and finish top 2. So BLG is my low key. That's where I'm feeling with BLG. I think they are kind of sat just as is our third best team, right? IG and Top Esports. I'm not gonna rant on Top Esports. I've done it too many times.
Yeah,
but IG have done a lot to impress me, and they've actually earned a small semblance of my trust. But it's almost a part of my DNA to be a Shy hater at this point. I cannot trust this motherfucker. No, I can't do it.
It's not in my bones. It hasn't been since 2019. I can't.
There's a new TikTok of the Shy every day. Every day from a match. Every day. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I feel like
all I will say,
I don't even know how they're doing that. They even play a game today, and there was a new TikTok from it.
It's just what they do. The best timeline really is top esports crash and burn, and then we get like a fun fourth team in the mix of like it should be IG, BLG, AL, top esports qual, but top esports go to the bin, and then maybe we get like a very fun EDG show up or Weibo. Like this Weibo lineup is occasionally very fun. Like I would unironically prefer to see them run through a
Weibo over top esports. Nah, bro.
I'm not saying hey. I'm not saying Weibo over top esports.
You think Weibo's fun? Jesus.
I would prefer Yamato. This is how much I have come to despise top esports as an organization and what they represent and what they do when they show up at internationals. This has nothing. And again, the Shy and what he has done to make me also kind of that hatred spread from just him to also Weibo. So for me to say I would prefer to have Weibo as an organization, the team there, instead of top, let that sink into what top esports do internationally and how they have scarred the Chinese fan base and how they have scarred the international LPL fan base. Yeah.
All right. You've touched on every fucking team in the LPL.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I didn't know if we're doing no key again with JDG or HiKey for Weibo or whatever.
BLG, low key, I think they'll make top 2. It's possible they can make top 2.
All right, Yamato, get in there with your low key.
You know, when I was doing the show with Dom, right? I was like, in my mind, I was like, you know what I would have done different is that I would have made it a lot more contentious. And I want to I want to say first and foremost that IG is going to take a big dump on Bilibili because Bilibili have no fucking mental at all. These guys are descaling real time because coaching doesn't work. It's just a group of players. They don't listen to anybody in the room. And then the moment something goes wrong and they need to put in work together as a team to fix it, they descale. And sadly, JJ joined FPX, so they can't sign a new jungler for this playoffs. If they signed JJ for this playoffs and they had a new jungler, I'd be like, damn. They have some, there's like new wheels in that shitty car.
I've been saying the whole year, the pathing after JJ got kicked from IG is that he just ends up a BLG by Worlds. Like, it will 100%
needed
happen.
to sequence.
Yeah.
It's kind of like like a movie where there's a diver and he just has like 20 minutes of oxygen in the tank, but those oxygen tanks are just different junglers. And they just keep swimming there looking for some gold, But there's not going to be any hardware here because IG is going to smoke him. But now moving on to my Loki, was it? Loki?
Loki.
Yeah.
Not the C9 mid laner, but Loki. My Loki is EDG. Because I think if I bring you guys back to what happened in Spring Split, WE was the dark horse that made it through. They managed to pick up the pieces and the scraps of that the teams left behind, right? And how the LPL functions, especially in a bracket like this, I do think that there's going to be a team or two that is going to fall apart. But as a baseline, I think EDG coming from the lower bracket, I do think EDG as a baseline should be better than Weibo, should be better than JDG. Because I think in terms of how they play, in terms of understanding their identity, how coherent they play around objectives, and how they just move around the map, I think there is a clear battle plan. And even though you have a bunch of these players that are good individually, like the Weibo roster on paper looks nice. The JDG roster looks on paper. There's players there that look nice, even though Scout has had the biggest fall off ever. I think that shit just happens to you when you lose 5 million in a lawsuit. That just breaks you. It's just what it is. It's just I can understand that. It's the only way I can rationalize him going like 1-9 on Aurora in a game. It's the only way. But EDG, I do think that they can beat some of the other teams as a baseline. And I think also there's going to be one of these top-end teams, whether it's Bilibili, AL, they're going to fall apart. And I think EDG is good enough to pick up the pieces. I think their roster, Parukia, this is a player that should go to better teams ASAP. Like, he's fucking good. I think An, Angel, ZDZ, they have champions that they can play at a very, very high level. They aren't like super insane players, but I think they have such a good understanding of who they are. And I think that's a crucial detail because in the end, the teams that make the run up through the lower bracket and have a good win record, they understand how to win. It's the same thing what we have over in the LCK. A team like Nongshim, like if you get beaten every day, like imagine like you're a lightweight fighter, right? And you might be good, but you're just sparring Mike Tyson every day. Like your confidence is going to be shit. You're going to be concussed. You're not going to believe in anything that you do because all you do is losing. Like Nongshim was the extreme version of that, where they won 2 maps out of and lost 24, right?
Correct.
It's like these guys have no confidence. And I think EDG with their position, similar to NIP, but I think EDG has a little bit more substance. I think that EDG is a team that could make a run to potentially be the 4th team out of the LPL.
Okay, I like that here. I find it interesting though, because when you talk about a team that knows how to win, I feel like that's IG, and that is their first match. So unless you think they're going to make the
EDG is making the lower bracket run. IG might be my high key. I'm IG biased. But that's maybe for the next part. But I think IG is going to cook EDG, and EDG is going to do the lower bracket run. They're going to massage into things. But they're going to make it close. I just going to give them confidence. It's going to give them a little bit of something, a little bit close. I just going to make it stressful for no reason. But IG will beat them. That's not the team that they will beat.
We can jump into it now. Like IG, I think being your high key pick, is that where you're going? Because we could keep it in the LPL, yeah.
It's gonna be my high key pick because IG could have finished at the same record as Top Esports, but they did the funny thing of giving FPX a very, very funny win. That's probably the funniest win. Entertainment value. I love all of that. But I want to outline what I think makes IG, like the main characteristic that makes them better than the other teams. I think that they are by far the most resilient team in the whole LPL. They are a team that can make mistakes within the game and still adjust mid-game, and then have one of the ugliest games you've ever seen, but still coming into the second game, not care at all. The mental capacity and the resilience of a Top Esports, a Bilibili, and AL, they don't adjust well. It's like you can clearly see when they're going through bad times and going through good times. And IG, I think they've had a steady ramp up. And as an additional layer, I do think that they're also just probably the smartest team in the league after AL has had a fall off. I think in terms of their fight selection, in terms of how they set up their drafts too, I think there is a very, very clear coherence. I have a love-hate relationship with Danny, but when he hits, it hits fucking hard, there's something to it, when I see Deshai leaving his turret in a lane swap situation with an Ornn, he gives up 5 CS and respects the game. I think it's over for all the other teams. I think it's just done, And I think Gala's returned to form. And even though I think Wei is a terrible player, like this guy must just have the best jokes ever. He knows he hangs with the chillest dudes.
He's the glue.
He's the glue, man. He's the golden glue of this team. He's just the glue guy. Because Mako is playing probably the best, like some of the best League of Legends he's played in a long time, in my opinion. He's had that like Top Esports peak form that he had of last year. Because Mako was disappointing. Like Mako deaths were so often and so frequent, and it was just like a heat map. It's like around this Drake pit, he will die at least once. And if that was like a bet prop on a website, I would be a billionaire, and I probably wouldn't be on this podcast right now. I would just be like with a jet ski or something, So IG, I think they have the right, makeup right now to make a deep run. And I think the biggest and the most difficult one will be the Top Esports match. But I think if the timing is just right, I think that IG could win the whole league.
Damn. That's a high key pick for upsets. Go ahead, Jamada, respond and then make yours.
Yeah, I want to quickly just add, I think the one thing that I give a lot of respect to IG for is, and you kind of like touched on it, but I want to also give like a very specific example, is their identification of just windows of when they know they can like make things. By far the best in the league, and I don't think it's close. Like there was the series, not their most recent series versus BLG, but the one before. I think it was their game 1, whereas like they caught Bin on a reset, it was actually a really cheeky one as well, because it was like Rookie swept, they saw the outline, and he just chucked down the timbers on it and said fucking just Hail Mary. Like, they're already down loads of gold. They took that kill, and then it's like, cool. BLG tried to do this really cheeky, let's set up around Baron and just like make this our stronghold because there's no mid wave. And I just went, what the fuck are you guys doing? They called in the Ornn ult. Rookie still sent it from a T. He went back to base to clear the inhib super minions. TP'd back, got a flank onto the Xayah, and the game was basically flipped on its head and turned. I don't think any other team in the league, almost with maybe the exception of like a top esport, would ever identify, yo, this, we have to like go. They would just sit there, take their pick, be happy. Like, the waves aren't good, we can't get towers, let's just be happy with the fact that we found that little bit of reprieve. IG just fucking pushed the pedal to the metal. And that's one thing that I really, really do respect about this IG. My HiKey, though. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that they've got veteran up and down, and this is what you want out of a team that's put together this way. Being able to see the angles that others can't. Maybe hands are, but the angles, crazy.
Honestly, like, their hands fail them as often as they succeed them, which is like the fun part about IG. HiKey, really obvious one. If Yamato's taking IG in the LPL, I'm taking Gen G over in the LCK, man. I think they're just gonna win. I think HLE are just kind of out of it for the most part. I don't think they are in the headspace. I think Zeka and Pina are too far away from Chovy. And even though there's definitely some criticisms to hand to Canyon, I still think it's very night and day.
Yeah.
And when I look over at T1, I don't want to be the guy, because there's like the whole I hate Faker meme thing. I still don't think Faker's having a good split, man. I really don't. People tried to, because there was the All-Pro BDD made it second in over Faker, and I thought that the reaction, much like you were saying, Dgon, was going to be maybe a little bit more vitriol heavy, but generally it was pretty reasonable. And I just don't feel like T1 right now, outside of their clutch moments and aura, have it in them to like do it in summer throughout, past couple of series, keeping it close. Yes, win in summer. I don't know how convinced I am. And I also just feel like, to me right now, Ruler and specifically Duro is playing fucking insane. I am so happy that Duro has developed into the player that he has over the course of the year. Because I remember the conversations that we were having, in kind of January, February, where it's like, how do you as Duro step into this lineup, look to your right, and to your right is Ruler, Chovy, Canyon, and feel like you could ever have a voice in that team. And it feels, as the player that he is, and it feels like he's done that. And a lot of his, especially his playmaking champions, look phenomenal. His engages look great. Gen G look like they're following up on them a lot, obviously. And it feels like he's not stepping too many steps wrong. And on the opposite side, I don't have that same level of confidence across the board. In T1, I have a lot of confidence comically in Thorin. I think Thorin has had a huge glow up towards the back end of this year. But for Faker, in parts, in some aspects of his gameplay, still for Guma, and Carrier is not at that ceiling that he's been at, throughout a lot of the year right now. I just feel like this is somewhat set up for a very close to slam dunk for Gen G. Do I still think it has the potential to be close? Yes, because I think that T1 have the capacity to just make any series that isn't supposed to be close. But I just feel as though Gen G, to me, are my clear number one in the LCK, and I would be relatively shocked even if T1 can come in and do their thing. And I think HLE still have a lot of their innate issues that they haven't fixed, specifically surrounding mid jungle in particular.
Yeah, there's a couple things that you hit there that I thought were good. You brought up specifically Faker. I think I'm trying to find the stat here, but I think he leads the league in solo deaths, and that's a lot of the way that they play, right? That is how T1 plays. They kind of leave him out on an island, and then he'll escape or he'll die, but then they get a ton of stuff back for his efforts. But a lot of the time, it's him kind of on an island and then and dying. So hasn't been great.
It hasn't, but I feel like what's at least good is he's still Faker. So it's like, even in these games where it's like he maybe he dies once solo, and then like he's in situations where he's like side laning and he doesn't necessarily want. It's like, I think of was it either the KT series? I think it was the KT series. It was on Orianna, and it just felt like he was, every time he would go to a side lane to collect, BDD and Co would just fucking ult on his head and he wouldn't get to breathe. But he would always make the most out of those situations where it's like he makes everything messy so that the execution has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then, T1 will claw something back. And I think that, to me, contrary to like the ISO deaths early on, is kind of where I look at one of the core strengths right now for him is, even if he, has these days where it's like, okay, I'm having a rough lane, going to a side lane, okay, I've got global taunt on today because I've got Faker above my health bar. He's still drawing so many resources that he's making it, his time is still worth it. But I think that in the LCK right now and against NG, it is so easy to just lose one sequence of play and then the game is over, right? There's like very little room for comeback, and I think that's the scary issue that I have with T1 specifically right now, is circumstances like that. But they can also abuse that as well. It's not like it's just a one-sided thing either. And Genji are not necessarily completely infallible, but I think they just will win. They are my HiKey for a lot of those reasons.
So I've got the stat that I was talking about here for Figure. It was bothering me what it was. It was not solo deaths. I don't have the solo death stats, but what we do have is like damage per team fight. His average damage per team fight is the lowest in the LCK mids. Lower than Calyx, lower than Yehu, lower than Bulldog. It is the lowest. So it kind of, again, shows what he does and what the way that T1 is operated compared to Chovy. Chovy's third. Actually, number 1 and number 2 are Yehu and Bulldog. So, I mean, take with that as you will. But in terms of average damage per team fight by mid laners, it's a cool stat that we had there. But yeah, Gen.G have just been so far and ahead of everyone else. I think it's a no-brainer. Is it an upset? I want an upset, but Jamada, I'll accept. All right, there it is.
Very bold, Yamato.
Yeah, I know.
Predicting Genji to win.
I almost forgot where we were with the HiKeyLoKeyNoKey, hence why I stunned Genji. But yeah, that's where we're at.
All good. All right. That does it for the Eastern Leagues for HiKeyLoKeyNoKey. Let's finally move into our last topic of the day. And it's time for some Galaxy Brain Club on Europe, the forgotten region that has to play second fiddle with sharing the studio with Valorant. But no, there is no offseason if you're the LEC, because there was still drama. And then we'll get into what we're looking for some of the playoffs as we get into the Galaxy Brain Club. It's LEC. All right. So there's a tweet that kind of went out earlier today. I thought it was cutesy and funny between KC and G2. There's a rumor going around that KC might be fielding someone different here. Jamada, you know anything? You know anything about that?
No, hold on now. I missed that. I haven't been on Twitter today. Could you fill me in? Fill me in, Dgon.
If you head on over to I forgot who it was. One of the analyst coaches for G2 keeps popping in to the KC lobbies, the KC game lobbies, the practice scrim lobbies, which I don't know, Yamato. You could tell me that's kind of troll. You're like jumping into someone else's scrims. Rodrigo, thank you. G2 Rodrigo is hopping into KC scrims to see who they're playing, because the rumor is that they might be playing with Niski. And so Kote, who is a coach over at Carmine Corp, is saying, can you stop being in English on Twitter Can you stop being pathetic like this and joining our lobbies 24/7 to scout who is playing? It's been like this for 2 weeks. Rodrigo responds, if there was only a system to make a password. Is it troll? It seems troll. Like, is that troll to... Is it troll to scout what mid laner another team is playing? 2, is it troll that he's going into the lobby that isn't his scrim to see? And then 3, is it troll that KC's using the same password or not using a password at all to get in and allowing this to happen? All these things. So that is kind of the thing that has been happening while most of the matches were not played. Yamato, I want you to start.
I think I'm gonna say this straight up. I think this is rat behavior from Rodrigo. I think straight up. I like the guy, he's a homie, but I think this is rat shit. Because I can tell you, back in the days when 2016, 2017, when you scrim back in these days, you had room pages. So people try to join your lobbies just to catch your room pages to guesstimate what you're practicing. That's how it went. I went to Riot with that shit. And they basically said, you have no fucking permission to join the lobbies, and the people that did it, they got a warning. Because the rationale, just because I can guess your password that I'm let in, is like, oh, I can pick your lock to your house. That means I can enter, buy a better lock, noob. Like, it doesn't fucking make any sense. It's like you have a scheduled appointment with a bunch of people, and like he's doing fucking corporate espionage. Like what are we doing here? I think it's bullshit behavior. And keep in mind, the main thing is that basically you use a global password, the same password in a league. People do 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. It isn't like a mystery, but that should be enough, I'm locking my door, and it's like, oh, I could tackle the door in, buy a better door. I have all the info now. Like that as an argument doesn't make any sense. So I think it's bullshit behavior. I think it's very ratty behavior. It's like they have a situation they're trying to figure out with their mid lane, and maybe they're screaming with Niski, maybe they're screaming with something else. And maybe KC is doing like some super chess where basically like they had Niski in the lobby, but maybe Vlad is just playing on his account, and they knew Rodrigo's entering their house, and they're like, yo, here you go. Now you see Niski's playing, and then they just give him a big old fuck you. Because at that point, I hope that's the case. Because I hate shit like this. I think, like, what kind of competitive edge? Like, you're trying to get a competitive edge through this shit? Like, you're better than this. You're the premier organization, and you're doing this for a competitive edge. I think it's just ratty.
What do you think, Jamada?
Yeah, it's just fucking troll, isn't it? I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm not a competitor, and I haven't been for a very long time. But even when I'm on TR and I look at the custom, like, bro, that shit feels like I don't even want to see it there. Like, other than the lobby that I need to be in to actually like do my job, I don't even want to see it there. So to actually be a competitor and be hopping in scrims, I can't defend it. I mean, Yamato has kind of just said everything that I would say, but just far more aggressively, to be honest. You're the biggest organization in Europe. You're a part of, rather, the biggest organization in Europe. Yeah, like, fucking knock it off, bro. I don't know what else to say.
Because I was going to say that the way that it was alluded to, Light has the tweet up now for those of you watching.
Yeah.
The way that it was alluded to before was that there was no password. But now this translation says the password is not a secret to absolutely anyone in the competitive scene. It's as if no protection existed, the equivalent of not having a password at all. This could have been avoided in 5 seconds by simply choosing a different password. So before, I felt like it was, if there was no password, that's like if you go to a house that has windows and no curtains, and you just look in the house. You don't go inside. You just look in the house. Because I'm like, all right, that's stupid. But if there was a password, it's a shitty password. I go exactly the way Yvonne is saying. It's like if there's a door, you break the door down, get a better door. That's stupid and intrusive. It's very intrusive and damaging to trust, which is required for scrim partners, for the whole system work. So, yeah, very interesting. And then, some laughs about it between Rodrigo and others saying, well, at least the stakes are higher now and it getting ratcheted up, which is good. G2 KC, they will be doing battle here for the playoffs in summer. MKOI and Fnatic, the other match as well. From the losers bracket, Vitality took down Team Heretics, and Los Gigantes up against BDS in the other loser bracket matchup. What is the biggest storyline for you, Jamada, going into these playoffs here?
I would probably look at Fnatic Koi, weirdly, right? Because with Fnatic, you have Pobian. Obviously, Pobian's had a generally acceptable start to his time as a Fnatic player. Young Pope, Young POB. Well, I guess no, that one technically belongs to yeah. But yeah, I think both these, especially because of the way that the bracket is formulated, right? Like winning one best of 5 puts you in such a good position immediately that I think, considering how both their years have gone, like both trajectories, they need, they really need this. So I think a lot of the storylines for me, where it's like, I've not been big on JoJo. Actually, Yamato, I've not seen, because I don't necessarily tap into Summoning Insight too many times, and I haven't seen too many of your co-streams of LEC and stuff. Where do you land on JoJo for a second? Because to just lay the groundwork for a second, I have been a doubter of JoJo basically since like week 4 winter. I've not had it for this guy. I think that the 20% has been masking the 80% for a lot of people. And for me, I think the 80% is more important. The consistency of gameplay is far more important. I think for him, cool. He's got a lot of laning is what a lot of people are like, hey, like your laning has improved a lot. There was the Knight thing at MSI when Knight was like, damn, I had to like sit up in my chair when I had to lane versus JoJo. That was a surprise. And all these different things. But when I look at him play, it's like, hey, his side laning still fucking sucks. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think his laning has been, when it's come to actual good, like top of the crop mid laners, I think he's been outlaned a lot of the time as well. And it's put Koi in very detrimental positions. So I'm curious on where you land on him just for a second, just because I would love to hear your insight on it. Because to me, I think JoJo has actually been really oversold by a lot of people. I think his PR, whoever he's got as a PR team, and just in general, has been working overtime to kind of protect his image. To me, at least that's the perspective that I have.
I think the main thing for JoJo is he's definitely had periods where he's insanely bad. Like that winter split, he was atrocious. I think the beginning of the split, there were regular season games where he's practically like solo losing. I think the main thing you could argue for with Jojo Pune is that the lower bracket run in spring when they played was a very a very solid glow up, and that was like when they had backs against the wall. And I do think also in the series against Vitality, even though it's such a low sample size, it was like, oh, he was solid. I think based on that alone, it's like in terms of the, let's say, the performance he put up under some kind of pressure, I think that's like the main thing that could get you excited. I do agree that the lane phase aspect is what's good. And I think the fact that he finds windows to participate in what Elioya and Alvaro want to do. I do think that his side laning isn't the strongest, but it also ties into how MKOI like to play. They kind of just play in very big groups. They don't like to spread. They don't like to play on 3 lanes. They like to play on information. They play in a very concrete way over and over again, where they are committing a large amount of people to a side, even though it might not be necessary. So they're not playing off of information in a very, very fluid way, but it makes their gameplay cohesive. And I think he suffers in that too, because when his homies don't come to him, he doesn't know how to like adjust. But I think George Pune is all right. I think he's solid. I wouldn't, in this matchup, I wouldn't be worried about him. But I do agree that he's that series when he's just like, what the hell, bro? Like, you got to lose your visa, bro. Like, what's happening?
Oh, my God. I think we'll get a lot of answers about the 2 Korean heritage imports here between that. I think that is a really good call out. On the opposite side, G2KC, what's the big storyline for that one for you here, Yamato?
You know, I mentioned, before we started the show that the LEC format is a tragedy on such a large scale because we are moving into this playoffs with no information. What data do we have? We got KC versus MCoy, G2 versus Fnatic, a single series. It's like I can frame it in a way and be like, G2 had a perfect regular split, didn't drop a map. like it's the truth, but it's a crock of bullshit, because they beat BDS, Team Heretics, and SK. Like, who cares? It's like it's not exciting at all. And a Fnatic that is trying to rebuild themselves. So we'll be going off of so little data. And my angle for this LEC split is the main thing that this format was designed for the teams that went internationally to recover and to come in the best form possible for playoffs. Because you compare it to any other region, JNG, T1, like AL, all these teams, they went through the ringer. Like JNG with their schedule, they had the road show, they had to play Wednesday, and they had to play the best teams at the same time. Like they went through some suffering, and some teams never recovered, like an anyone's legend. Because the process it's not only that you need to rest, but also you need to digest and make your experience into something. And that takes a lot of effort and time too. And when you are rushing to then play, it becomes a lot more difficult. And I think the advantage here, we view it from MCoy and G2's angle. Saudi Arabia, no jet lag, they can fly back. They had 1 week off, and here they got another week off, and then they played their scheduled matches in second week and not in week 1, because they were like, we're going to be nice to you. And that's great, for them. But I think for all the other teams, this sucks ass. Fnatic didn't have a match for a month. They just didn't have a game for a month. Like, how is that a format? You are on a 1 month break. Imagine, not only from a competitive standpoint, imagine that from an advertising standpoint. Like you have your advertisers like, oh, so when's your next LEC match? In a month. Like, what? It's like, what happens? Like, why not 1 month? Did you win everything? No, it's just scheduling. That's just, we're not in front of a crowd or in front of a camera, nothing. We have a full ass month to do nothing. No resistance. You don't get to test. Like, you got beaten by G2 in a cruel manner, and now you got to wait 1 month. That's the format. So now we're going into with so little information. G2 and Koi got to practice EWC, MSI, and so forth, got to digest it. And all the other teams that stuck around in Europe for 2 months, what kind of practice did they do? They took a month off, and didn't do jack shit. So for me, I think G2 and Koi just have such a massive advantage over everybody else. Because Fnatic made roster changes, but KC couldn't solve their problems in their off season. They took a month off, and they tried to bring in Niski, but they are desperate to try to find something that clings. So I feel like KC is just a continuation of what we had last split, but I can see G2 actively improving. So for me, I put G2 as my frontrunner to win the split because they have the experience to digest experience, they get to rest, and they get to take it easy, and I think that they're the only team actively that have shown that they've improved since spring. So in this matchup against KC, I think that G2 should just be the favorite. KC have a very high ceiling as individual players, but I think with where they are at right now, I think Kalis is in good form. I think that, of course, Kana is fantastic. MVP candidate, fantastic. Maybe next year he's going to go back to the LCK and, he gets to redeem himself. He's back in the building, Sadly for him, Doran is a stud. So I thought that's going to have a T1 Kana, reunification, but it's like, no. It's just Doran is too good. So we have that part. But I think Yike is looking like G2 Yike, the one that makes a mistake and is kind of lost on the map. And then we have Vladi with the whole issues with the mid lane and his performance kind of being middling. I do think that G2, if they lose here, I think it would be like a massive, massive upset. I think the teams that went internationally, got to practice internationally, if they don't leverage the advantage you have here, that you've played, like I don't know how many cities on top of the other teams and just had better practice, if you don't leverage that here and you get beaten by a KC or Fnatic, you have dropped the ball big time.
The dream scenario actually for Kana is KT. It's KT Kana. It's how do you surround BDD with that talent, by the way. But that is not this year. Kana still has a ton to play for and a great chance to make it on over to Worlds, but maybe not through the upper bracket, according to Yamato. All right. We're a little crunched on time here, so we're going to call it there for our final little bit here for today. Yamato, it was great having you back. It was so awesome.
My pleasure, man. It was fun. Time flew.
Yeah, well, I know this isn't like the 5-hour marathon that you do over at Summoning Insight every now and then, like last week, which is just crazy. What else do you have going on, and where are people going to find you this week?
This week, honestly, it's this LPL playoffs, LCK playoffs. You mentioned before, like LEC co-stream, bro. I don't get LEC co-streaming. It doesn't matter that I coached there my whole life. LEC co-streaming is just, bro. It's just for premium people. So LEC co-streams. I'm kind of slowly ramping down a little bit my stream hours because I stream 300 hours a month, and it's not leading to shit. I'm going to sit in front of a camera and do LEC live views. Fuck that shit. So I'm looking to change up the life. I'm looking for ways to get back into the coaching game because I want to compete again. So that's the future, but that's super far ahead, and I hope to keep the podcast going. But I appreciate you guys having me on and being so nice to me and making it life easy for me here, having a chat with you boys.
You're a premium person to me, so
thank you. Can you give me a job?
They're bad on the mistake. Hey, man, hey. I will say, Shadow Corp does follow me on Twitter. That is that agency that all the Korean players use.
That's a crazy name for an agency, by the way. Like,
I know, dude.
You've been funded by the Shadow Corp.
Just like, it's like a dark. I don't even know what it looks like. A ball getting, like they show like a home run in baseball, and then the drawing is like the little star behind it, or like a comet with the star, like and it's that trail behind it. That's what it looks like in black. I'm like, this looks like evil, and it's called Shadow Corp. But they have a lot of players. I'll keep you updated. Jamada, where are people going to find you today or this week?
I'll probably be doing LEC live view just because I'm a little bit bored today. So actually just directly after the show, you can find me live on my personal channel /Jamada. And I'm still working on the short form content and the long form content. I have a short form video hopefully coming the next couple of days about the ADC role and why I think so many people consider it weak when for the last little bit of time, it's been pretty strong. It's actually not a weak role at all. So I'm sure that will ruffle the jimmies of a lot of ADC players specifically. But you can find that on my YouTube on Jamada as well, Jamada Clips.
Yeah, I agree. As an AD player, I don't think we're underpowered. I just felt like everything was so powered that I just died quick. But also I realize as the game gets later, I killed things pretty fast. Looking forward to that. For me, got LCK tomorrow. But also I had about a little under an hour long sit down with CEO of Gen G Arnold. I got to visit their brand new Gen GGX LAN facility, which was pretty awesome. And we sat down and we talked about the early years of Gen G, what success looks like for the organization, what success looks like for him, the systems and processes in place for this year's team. What's it like in the mixing those personalities of Chovy and Ruler in the same roster? It was a pretty awesome open book thing. It was my first interview I've done here in Korea, so the camera is a little bit out of focus and the audio is a little scuffed, but I salvaged it enough and feel pretty good about it to put it out. It'll be on my YouTube channel as well over at Dgon Esports. Very excited for that one. So go ahead and check it out, and hopefully this will kick off a lot more sit-downs with people from the Korean esports system that feel pretty comfortable and confident to share some of their experiences, just like these two guys did today. Thank you so much for both of you for your time. Thank you all at home for joining us, subscribing, and all our partners making the show work today. We'll catch you next week for more Power Spike action. Bye-bye.